Mona and I met under a very interesting circumstance. With the Fuckup Night brand, I carry with other people the social media channels. You know, we like comments, we follow people, we do different things, and it's not necessarily always the content. Sometimes you're building an audience, sometimes for various reasons things happen. I got a call from a friend who said a friend of mine was offended, and I'm not saying this right, but basically she said there was someone she had an interaction with someone, and because you are connected to Fuckup Nights, and this person is connected to Fuckup Nights, she'd like to talk to you. And my first response was, I don't have a dog in this fight. And I think it's a natural comment to just simply say, what does she expect of me? So through the friend, I said, I'll gladly talk to her. And I'm really glad she did. And I think it was March 25th. I don't remember the exact date. Well, I can tell you the date, not exact, but we talked in the morning, and I realized that my being complicit with this and not speaking up was in fact wrong. And I think it was probably a lot of the reasons why things happened from that day forward. That was at 10 o'clock in the morning, and at 4:30 in the afternoon, George Floyd was killed. And things went crazy. And I really struggled with that for a long time, and I committed to Mona, and I committed to everyone, my children and everybody, that I will speak up now, because it's just not right. But it's just a series of timing events that happened. But I met this incredible individual through this whole process, and we've become very good friends. We're very aligned, we're very scattered, we're kind of messed up in a good way, and we're productive, and we love this community. So I'm going to introduce you to a wonderful and a treat of an individual. 3 fun facts. She was almost arrested in Lexington, Kentucky because an officer didn't believe Winnipeg was a real place. It was on her driver's license. She looked shady too. Second fact, I am overly uncomfortable and I laugh at really appropriate times. Look who she's sitting beside, Tim. Although he's bang on with his timing. And as if this isn't everybody's dream and quirky fact, her ultimate dream is to own an ostrich farm. Mona Mousa, welcome to the stage.
Sorry. Hi. I'm going to put on my rider that you cannot put the black girl with black hair on closest to the fucking rain, Jeff. Come on. Have you learned nothing from Black Lives Matters? Got to preserve this. Hi. How are you all? It was when I'm really uncomfortable, I laugh at really inappropriate times. Yeah, that was a tough meeting. And really hard day. And I was joking with somebody that it seems like maybe 24 hours before my fuck up events, a black man is killed by the police, because just recently. And then I show up at Fuckup Nights and it heavy, and Black Lives Matter is on my mind, and I'm in this political fight. But I stopped fighting recently, and I stopped giving a fuck, and I started telling really dark jokes instead to deal with that. So I guess I'm going to start. What I'm most nervous about is my ADHD telling my story, in this roller coaster knot of a fucking disaster, instead of me telling my story, because it's pretty linear, sort of. So I'm going to try to be on track. Just remind me. Just come up here and start asking my ADHD questions if I'm running over time. Got it? Cool. 12 years. For 12 years, I spent touring all over, doing spoken word poetry. Yeah, try to explain that career to your parents. Try to explain that career to anyone. I got into advertising, got in the advertising world, hated it. One, because I'm not competitive. I got reamed out by my intern manager, I guess, at an agency, because we were doing this role play, and a client wanted something, I couldn't meet it. I'm you should try this other advertising agency. And they're no, you get the client. I was no. If the client doesn't match me, I'm not going to try to get them. And he was you should maybe not be in this industry. I was yeah, you're probably right. I don't like working for you anyways. So I started doing poetry. I got on a bus from Windsor, and I took it to Ottawa, and I was I'm just going to write a bunch of poems and get on a stage and just do it and see what happens. And it went well enough that I planned my first tour, did not have any writing, didn't have any poetry, had 3 things. I was I'm going to write something, I'm going to go on tour, I'm going to perform in front of people. It was ironically called sometimes you just have to dream big. It was a failure. Like, that tour sucked. I somehow still kept doing it for 12 years. And over the 12 years, I slowly came to realize that I inherently am political. Like, walking out of my front door is political. Being a queer woman of color is political. And it started to wear away at me. And everything was a fight for 12 years. And then also there's like this thing that comes with ADHD and not knowing you have it called ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorder. So I just never worked for anyone because it never went well if I disagreed with them at all. So I just worked for myself and I did poetry. And I remember about 5 or 6 years ago, I don't remember how many years it was, but when the Orlando shooting happened, I had just been in the middle of a 216 date year of shows, just booked right out. Like, I don't know if I even slept at home. I had a glorified storage unit that I paid $800 a month for in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I was on the road all the time. And Orlando happened. And I was touring, I was performing, I was in Saskatoon at this time. And I was stage managing Saskatoon Pride. I was performing at Saskatoon Pride. I was also the special events director for Winnipeg Pride at the same time and had to fly back to do our signature events. And I remember being backstage. I don't like name dropping, but this is like pretty poignant. I was tired and I was stage managing. I was with Biff Naked. And I sat with her and she's like, oh yeah, this is like my 5th husband. I'm like, what? I don't even want one. And she's like, you look tired. I was like, I'm fine. She's like, no, you look tired. Like, when's the last time you just stopped? I was like, I don't know. And she's like, maybe you should do that now. And then Orlando happened, and that night we had a vigil in Saskatoon, and I had to fly back right away to another vigil. And I had a show that night. And I never, ever, actually, rewind. In the first 5 years of my career, I learned I cannot drink wine before I have to perform or I forget every single thing I'm about to do on stage. It happened so many times that I started having nightmares about it, like repeating dreams that I would get on stage and just like forget everything. So I stopped drinking before I performed. But I got on stage after the vigil, after just a week of Pride events, a week of all that, and I just forgot everything. I was so lucky that the people I was opening for were also activists. They knew me, they knew the work I do, and they said, it's okay, but you need to stop. You just need to stop. I was like, okay, well, I have a 90-day tour in the US coming up. I can't really just stop right now. I have to do it all. We're at home a week before we left for that tour, and the Trump primaries were on. And every single one of his stops was on my tour. I was like, oh, fuck, this is where I die. This is exactly where I die, because my work is not friendly to Trump supporters. If anything, it denounces them, and I should not be going to Kentucky, Jackson, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas, Laredo, Texas. Don't go there. If you look like me, when Trump is on his campaign trail, it's bad. And it got so bad, I remember we were in Jackson, and the organizer, who's a fucking idiot, put our hotel on the advertising. Yeah, because he wanted to shout out to the sponsors. He obviously didn't read my contract because it said if like a hotel was a sponsor and you had to promote them, that it was mandatory that you were to put me in a different hotel. I don't care if you're getting free rooms, you're not putting me in that hotel. 4 middle-aged white men showed up in the lobby of the hotel at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and specifically said, these were the exact words out of their mouths. I was surprised they were this smart. But they said they were looking for the queer colored woman trying to convert their children. I was like, oh, fuck, this is where I die. So we pieced out. One of my, not fuck-ups, but wins was learning to hire very big, strong white men to be my tour managers. It came in handy. And I was burnt out. I was exhausted. By the end of that, I still had half a year of shows. And it got to the point where I refused to go on stages. They brought in tour managers, they brought in managers, they brought in like social workers, they brought in therapists, they brought in my best friend. They did everything they could, and I'd be in green rooms, and I refused to go on stage. And then they'd be like, well, you have to because you have a contract. And then the business side of my head is like, oh, right, fuck, can't burn these bridges. So I'd get on stage. And I don't remember it. That last like cup, that's fucking creepy. I feel like my activist friends tell me I should stay away from those things. I don't know. Fuck it. If I was gonna die, I would have already died. Hey, like, whatever. I'm really fucking awkward. Like, I just look good, so it's easier to swallow for all of you. And really red lipstick. Cheekbone Beauty. It's owned by this indigenous Canadian company. Anyways, I'm trailing off ADHD. So I decided I was done. I was done with touring. I was tired of it. I was going to become a retired poet. And then I stepped it up a notch, and I started an artist management agency for poets of color. Why not just become their tour manager? I learned how to deal with, like, really hard to deal with poets like me. Why not just then manage 6 of them? So I did, and it was miserable, miserable. And I'm fighting learning, like, how to be myself, how to still find joy in my work, how to connect to the stories, how to be vulnerable, how to open up. If you know me, you'll know it takes a long time to pull the vulnerability out, and I'm a super fucking hard shell first. Actually, I'm really soft. Like, I really just want to eat gummy bears on French vanilla ice cream, watch Serendipity over and over again, and hide in a blanket for it. That's like my ultimate life goal. You can't do that, though. I have to pay bills. I just moved into a stupid fucking building that I have to pay for. Anyways, back to the topic. I just got burnt out. I burnt out. We were in London doing a show called Intersectionality Day. If you've heard, how many people have heard of the word intersectionality? Chances are most people use it wrong. And I was teaching people, as somebody living day in, day out, just exhausted, I was still teaching people about these things. I was on stages, constantly calling people out, constantly like having to protect myself and the politics I stand for. And I was done. I was doing everything for everyone. When you manage 6 artists and you're trying to manage your own life and you're trying to manage your own career and your own art, you lose yourself completely. Like, I didn't really know who I was by the end of it. I stopped touring and I moved here to KW because I was in a relationship and I was like, let's just move to KW from Toronto. I like it here. It's great. And what I'm doing now ties into that. But I stopped, and at like 29, 30 years old, I had to learn everything about myself. I had to learn what I like, what I don't like. I had to learn that I actually fucking hate living with people by living with my partner, because I was living in hotel rooms and on planes, and I was always by myself for the most of 12 years. And it was lonely, but I realized I also just really don't like living with anyone. I'd rather be alone and introverted and not come home after a long day and have to tell my whole day. Anyways, I'm trailing off. But I had to learn myself again. I had to learn what I like to eat, what I don't like to eat. I had to learn not to have a tour manager telling me what time to show up, where curtain time is, sound check. Also, sound check for spoken word. Amit, you can attest to this. Sound check is one of the most infuriating things ever, when your entire job is just speaking into a fucking microphone. And I've had all these sound check guys. I love Amit so much, because Amit would never do this to me, being like, well, we need to sound check you. And I was like, I'm just talking. If you don't know how to adjust a microphone when I'm talking, get a new fucking job. I think I created, my agent had 2 people they were managing, my attitude and like me. Oh my God, I told so many fucking people off over the years. It was bad. I burned a lot of bridges, but they still rehired me because they didn't have any Black poets to hire in February. If you caught on to that, that's Black History Month. It's the only month that Black poets get work. Oh, and then I'm also queer, so June too. 2 months of guaranteed work. Hey, Tim. But I lost myself. And then I stopped. And I just could breathe again. And then I moved to KW, been here for a few years. I don't know, I just took it easy for 2 years, and then COVID happened. And I was like, throughout this time, I started working at a food magazine. I did this thing where also I've had like every job under the sun, because when tour season was low, I would just find a job. Like, I've done everything from nannying to bartending at a strip club. I got to wear a polo when I was bartending at a strip club, I should say. if anyone feels offended and isn't very open-minded about bartending at strip clubs. I was wearing a polo. It had a collar. I hated it. I cut off the sleeves. I got in trouble. I still wore it. Anyways. I like, whose laugh is that? It's fantastic. Can I like take you home with me or lick your laugh? Can I like just bottle it up? I need it. I live alone. I don't know, so I'll open my stove and hear your laugh. It'll be like my alarm. Or I'll make it my ringtone. I'll change it from "This Is Me" from The Greatest Showman to your laugh. Anyways, and COVID happened. I was like, what do I want to do? I always wanted to go back into the magazine world. I really did. And I just didn't want to be a famous influencer at all. When my Instagram following hit like 1,000 people, I was terrified because I'm like, who are all these people watching me? I don't know who they are. I keep going through it. I'm like, I block people sometimes, and I'm like terrified of my Instagram following because I'm like, I don't know who they are. Like maybe 100 people have interacted with me regularly, and then there's these like 1,300 other people that are just like ghost following me. It's fucking terrifying, especially when you watch like horror movies. Your Instagram is terrifying to you. Anyways, I wanted to do it again, but I didn't look like the influencers. I didn't sound like the influencers. I was not going to be blonde, and I'm sure as hell never going to be white. I don't know. I'm not even going to try. So it wasn't my world. And COVID hit, and I just started hearing really shitty news everywhere. And my whole life, like when you live in my identity, it's just shitty news all the time. And I thought about like, what's the most political thing I've taken from my lineage, from the women in my life, from other BIPOCs. If you don't know what BIPOC is Black, Indigenous, and people of color. The most political thing you can do in an identity is to find joy in the crisis, to find joy in trauma, to laugh when it's not acceptable to laugh. I mean, I laugh at funerals. I did it in a funeral in Sudan, and it was not good. My mom was like, go stay in the house until the people are gone. You can't laugh here. I'm like, okay, cool. Got it, Mom. Yeah. But finding joy during the hardest times is probably one of the most political things you can do, in my opinion. And so I was like, okay, maybe this magazine thing could happen. We had originally tried to plan a thing called Quintessential Awards, and COVID hit and that got canceled. And what Quintessential Awards was going to be was to celebrate the Waterloo region, and the people in it, the things in it, things to do. And it was just going to be an award show based on the notable awards from Toronto, and it was just going to become a part of the True North Festival, and then it got canceled. So that got put on the back burner. And then my friends' businesses all started shutting down, and everyone was really worried about how they were going to get through this. So I was like, okay, let's start this magazine. I called a few friends. I called my friend Arnold, who runs Underground Flavor Group. He was on one of the AMAs. I called my friends who own Love You Salon and Spa, and everyone said yes. Everyone said this sounds like a great idea. So I was like, okay, great. Like 10 people will read this thing. I'll get a Squarespace website up. I'll put up some content. Like 10 people will read it. No, it's a fucking monster, and I'm scared of it now. We have like 9,000 fucking page views, and it's only 2 issues in. I'm terrified of it. I don't know what to do. I fucked up again by not hiring anyone the first 3 months it existed, and like completely burnt out again. And I was like, I need to have a team. Actually, one of my team members are here, Sarah, who's awesome. I'm so excited. It just became this thing where, and like Sarah, people just started coming to me, and we're like, we want to do this. We want to celebrate the region. We want to show people why it's important to see that you can fall in love with the Waterloo region over and over again. There's always something to do. There's people who've put their hearts into being here. I never want to live in a city where it's just like a Walmart and a mall. I don't want that. I want the boutique shops. I want the restaurants. I want the coffee shops. And I want those places to have more people who look like me so I feel welcome. And it was one of the mandates that in the magazine, when you go to it, it's digital only. We're not doing print. I have a lot of friends who care far more about the environment. Like, I'm kind of environmental, like I care, but it's not exactly my first priority, but like I get it. So I'm like, okay, I'll follow suit. So we're not gonna print it, except for maybe like once a year where we do a yearbook style thing. It's all digital, and every page you go to, there's diversity. It isn't just all stock images of like really pretty white people, If you go to most stock photo websites and you look woman, it's about 32 images before you find a black woman. And that's really sad. It's really sad to see that I'm not reflected in my own industry. So I'm doing it myself, and we're celebrating the region. And it's really exciting. We have 24 contributors. They're business owners. They're people who live here. We're doing a page for Fuckup Nights. Fuckup Nights is one of our partners now, and there will be a page you can go to and see what's happening with Fuckup Nights. And it's exciting. And we have a page that's coming up called the Walper Block, where we're celebrating everything happening there. And we're doing these fun features like Joy on the Road, road trips you can take within like 519 kilometers of the region, which is, get it, 519, like the area code? And it like comes out at 5:19 p.m. Like, I'm cheesy. I'm really cheesy. I'm letting out all my cheesiness that I didn't let out in my poetry in like this project because I don't know what else to do. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. And it's fun. And it's kwjoy.co. And it's lifestyle content. And it's not political, but I think by the fact that I am political, that it inherently is political. And the people that have all come together, I'm really excited because I think they really represent the region well. And yeah, where are you? And I promise not to give half of it away to anyone. Yeah, oh, she had to leave. I'll email her. Okay. Are you going to say something? I think so. Okay, I'm saying.
It is Fuckup Nights. It's
Also,
okay to swear, just so you know.
Oh, yeah. I was in Elora photographing all day for it, and then I'm back tomorrow at like 7 a.m. They think I'm psycho. My friends think I'm like crazy. They're like, what are you doing today? I'm like, oh, I'm in Elora doing things for the magazine, and then I'm speaking at Fuckup Nights. Or no, some of our contributors were like, you know you have to speak at Fuckup Nights tonight, but you're in Elora. I'm like, I know, I'm going back. I'm just going to go back to Elora at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Yeah.
Any questions for this complex individual, my friend Mona? I know.
You don't have to be
It's
scared.
a lot to take in, isn't it?
Yeah.
She's a fabulous individual that gives a shit about this community, but her story is not unlike a lot of people's, where you just go deeper and deeper and deeper. Mac?
I'm kind of scared of your questions, I'm not going to lie, but go ahead.
Real softball, don't worry.
Okay.
You traveled all over North America, and just wondering, what was it about this city you said, okay, I'm going to take roots here?
Well, okay. You want the honest truth? Yeah. When I moved here, Ford took away rent control, and I wasn't going back to Toronto. That's the truth. My ex and I was engaged, and I was living with my ex, and we made a joke that once rent control happened, if we broke up, I'd have to rent his basement out. That didn't happen. I moved to my own place. But yeah, I just was not going to go back to Toronto, and I wasn't going to try to set roots in another small town, because they're usually pretty racist, and at least I'm comfortable with this one. It's actually not bad. I actually really love KW. And there's just something, my test to a city is what it's like at 5 a.m. when everything is sleeping to walk down the street. And what does that feel like? That's the most poetic shit I've said in a long time. That's my test. I love it here. It's fantastic here. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
On that note, then, what was your worst 5 a.m.?
My worst 5 a.m.? Like in a city I've lived in, or just a city I've been?
Just a city you've been in.
Oh, God. Probably that Nashville, because that was at 5 a.m. That was like in the middle of the morning when I almost got arrested. And do you want to just know that when I almost got arrested, because Winnipeg wasn't like a real city, that was like probably very close to 5 a.m. Okay, I think I should I tell that story? Yeah? Okay. Oh, fuck me. Okay, so, quick, fuck. Oh, God. Okay, so I'm stubborn as fuck. And they were like, oh, let's fly you into Louisville, where your show is. And I have an obsession with bourbon. And I was like, no, I want to fly into Lexington because I want to drive through the bourbon trails. And they're like, no, like your show is at this time, your flight arrives at this time, like you need to fly into Louisville. I'm like, no, I'm flying into Lexington. And they're like, you can't. I was like, yes, I can. So fly me into fucking Lexington. So they did. And they're like, okay, you have to rent a car and you have to drive. So now you're going to get in at like 3 in the morning, get a car, get to Louisville, here's a hotel, you have to get ready. Like, this is extension, so it takes time to put them in, and I had to get ready for the show. I had to go put in my hair. So I'm like, okay, I'll drive. The airport, Kentucky's racist and like also not very smart. So I have a credit card, it has a maple leaf on it, and the enterprise car rental or whatever it was said that no major credit card has a maple leaf on it and refused to even swipe it. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, Canada's a real fucking country. Like, so they're like, no, take this taxi to our other location, they'll rent you a car. I'm like, but if you won't rent it to me with a maple leaf on it, why is your other location gonna do it? She's like, I don't know, we're calling you a taxi. So they put me in a taxi. We're in this taxi, and he goes to merge, and he hits a pickup truck, and I'm like, fuck me. I have a picture of my feet with my luggage standing on a highway. I'm like, this is not ending well. And might I add, Sandra Bland had just happened. Okay, this is important. So the cops come, and the taxi is lying, the pickup truck is lying, and then the cops just like center in on me, and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna die. Like, I actually thought I was gonna die. Like, this is what kept going through my head. And the cop comes and he's like, were you wearing a seatbelt? I'm like, no, but talk to them. I have to go. Like, I need a car. I need to be in Louisville. I should have fucking just flown into Louisville. I didn't get it. I'm gonna listen to my manager next time. And he's like, okay, well, you weren't wearing a seatbelt and that's not legal. And I'm like, okay, I get it, but like, there's a bigger problem happening right there. And he's like, let me see your ID. And I was like, fuck me. Okay, so I give him my ID, and I'm gonna now tell you things about me that people don't know. My legal name is Mona Mina Mousa, because my parents fucking suck. And my middle name is my dad's first name, because I'm Egyptian, and patriarchy. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, doesn't matter if you're a guy, doesn't matter who the fuck you are. Apparently your dad's first name becomes your middle name. It's fucking forever branded with some dude's name. I love my dad. He's like my best friend. It's great. Yeah. I tell him I love him all the time. He sends me pictures of birds. I put arms on them and send them back. It's pretty good. It's a good relationship. So I give him my ID. It says Winnipeg, Manitoba. I live at 99 Furby Street. And the fucking Manitoba license says Friendly Manitoba on it. And there's a picture of a goddamn bison on it. And it's like yellow or something. And my photo doesn't really even look like me. So he comes back and he's like, chest puffed. I'm like, oh, you think you got me, huh? He's like, do you know how much trouble you can get into for lying to a cop? And I was like, the fuck did I lie to you about? I didn't say fuck, because when you look like me, you don't swear at white police officers. I don't know. We've learned that. We're learning that every day. I don't know. Turn on your news. I don't know. So I don't even get my rights read, right? Because I don't have rights in Kentucky. Because that's the thing. You know that, right? Like, there's certain people that have rights, certain people that don't have rights. It's very obvious who is who. He puts me in the back of his car. And I'm like, shit, I have a show. I can't even reach my manager. I don't have my phone. I have to be at like the University of Kentucky in like a few hours, and all of this because I insisted on driving past closed bourbon distilleries in the middle of the night. So he puts me in the back of his car, and I'm like, can you crack the window? I'm like, there's still that thing going on. Can I get out while you figure that out? He's like, no. So his partner comes up to him and he's like, hey, why is she in the car? Like, she wasn't driving. He's like, oh, get this, and showed him my ID. And he's like, oh, Winnipeg. She could have at least chosen a real city. And I'm like listening to this whole thing, and I'm like, you guys are dumb. Like, when they tell you Americans don't know geography, like, holy fuck. Like, Winnipeg's in the center of North America. Like, it's in the exact center of North America. Winnipeg, Manitoba. And, like, movies make fun of Winnipeg all the time. Like, you hear about it all the time. And so his partner looks at him. He's like, you should probably let her out. And he's like, why? And he's like, have you heard of, thank God Nashville is close enough to Kentucky. Because he's like the Winnipeg Jets. It's an NHL team. It's a fucking hockey team. I know nothing about hockey, and hockey saved my life. And he let me out of the car. Yeah. And then they drove me to the car rental place and asked that I don't tell their supervisor.
Mona Mousa, welcome to the Fuckup alumni.